So we talking about how do you actually attract relationships in business using numerology and astrology. I'm actually gonna record this one, this bad boy. Have you ever wondered like why people are just, like so obsessed with all these freaking numbers and why all the girlies are always asking people for their oh, what's your sign? What's your sign? What's your sign? And if this stuff actually works, like does it actually work? Like what time you were born actually have an effect on like your personality as a person, and does that affect like how you interact with other people? The answer is yes. Yes, it actually does. uh, and if you understand how to use it, you can actually attract your ideal relationship, or you can attract uh, a lot of people for your business. What's up, Bob? How do I get an ex that left me for someone else? Well, we can actually start by talking about this. Do you happen to know your ex's birthday and all of her other information, like when she was, like the day she was born, all that stuff? Do you know that by any chance, Bob? If you do, then I could help you out with learning a little bit more about this and keep it on topic with the example. Do you know her full birthday, like the birthday date, birthday and year? You don't have to put it in there. Just tell me yes or no. Okay, well, there we go. Perfect. So, if she was born April 12th, 2002, we do a real quick numerology. She is April, January, February, March, April, 4. So she's 4, 12, 2002. So she is a 5, 7, 4, it's 11. So she's a 2. She's a 2 life path. You can go, Bob, yourself and go to a numerology calculator for yourself and find out what your life path number is, and you essentially do that by adding together all the numbers. So like you can do it really quick if you have like a piece of paper or something next to you. Your day, the day you were born, the month you were born, the number of that, and then the year you were born, and you're just going to add up all the numbers. So for her, hers is 4, 1, 2, 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, 2. So it's 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Add them all together, and then you simplify it. So adding it all together, you get 11. We add the 2's together, the 1 and the 1 together, we get a 2. So her life path is 2. She's life path 2. If you understand and know what your life path is, you can actually figure out whether or not that the person that you were with, the ex that you were with, is actually a good long-term match for you. And this is where we start talking about like using numerology and astrology to attract the ideal relationship for you. And one of the things that we do is just number one, find out what your life path is and look at what are the most compatible life paths with you. So for me, I know that I'm a life path 3. So if we're talking about getting her back with the law of assumption, Bob, you can get her back with the law of assumption. If you want to make it super stupid simple, you just go into the assumption that you guys are already together. If we're just going like dumb simple, that's all you got to do. Is just go into the assumption you are already together. Like if for your example with like Neville Goddard and having the conversation with Abdullah, when Neville came to Abdullah and he asked him, "Hey," I was going here to show me. Oh yeah, I always go super complex with the rants. Abdullah, when Neville came to Abdullah, Neville Goddard came to Abdullah. He told him, "Hey, I want to go to Barbados. I have this desire to go to Barbados." And he told him, "You had this desire. Great. You're already in Barbados. You're in Barbados." The law of assumption was that Abdullah already assumed that Neville Goddard was in Barbados. Therefore, he was in Barbados. And he told Neville Goddard to sleep and to imagine that he was already in Barbados, to see New York from Barbados. Because he was already in the assumption that he was in Barbados, he got there. And it took Neville a while. There was a whole story. You could go check out my video, the Unhinged Method video. I go into like the whole topic and explain it in greater detail on like how do you actually hold the assumption for what you want until it actually shows up in your world around you. So for you, dude, if you want somebody back, the only thing that you need to do is just go into the assumption that you were already together, and then you could do the visualization exercises as though you're already together. Because a simple way of thinking of it is like, hey, you have 24 hours in a day. You're awake for like maybe a good like 3/4 of the day. Okay. And during those 3/4 of the day, the things that you're thinking about and noticing in the day is dominating your experience. When we talk about using the law of assumption and we talk about doing the state akin to sleep and doing visualization exercises, we're slicing out bigger pieces of the pie during the day where you are no longer going to be in your old reality. Whatever the reality is for that like 3/4 of the day pie, because we have the 24 hours, whatever the pie is, we're cutting out bigger slices of that pie where you're deciding that you're going to be in a specific reality, and you give yourself the visual experience of existing in that new reality. You see it when you are asleep. You see, well, not when you're asleep, when you're laying down prior to sleep, when you're going into the state akin to sleep, you're imagining yourself in that first person position where you're interacting with your ideal person. You're laying in bed with them, maybe you're having a conversation with them, or you're doing stuff with them. Maybe you're thinking about this during the day. But the whole point is that you're taking a percentage of that pie and you are now living in the end. You are living in the reality, in your consciousness, in the reality that you are already with this person. And the goal is to increase the pie as much as you possibly can to just live in the assumption or to feel like you are already in the relationship. You start this off by using the wedge, which is what Neville Goddard taught people in his lectures, which was, I assume that I am this person. I am seeing from this first person position. I'm leaving from the end. I see from my own eyes that I am, in Neville's instance, I am in Barbados. I am seeing New York from Barbados. I am walking in my parents' house in Barbados. I can hear my siblings in their rooms in Barbados. And I think like that, and I'm experiencing that for that sliver of time as I am falling asleep. And that is what I am carrying into sleep, which is where we and this is part of the reason why I like the 24-hour circle. When you have the 24-hour circle, if you do that and you create that assumption as you're going to sleep, the interesting thing that happens is that during the 8 hours of sleeping, you stay in the state or in the energy of being in that assumption. So now for about, not only like, let's say you do it for like maybe 20 minutes. If you do it for 20 minutes and you go to sleep in that state, for the next 8 hours, you continue to feel that feeling. You have that energy in your body, you have that energy in your space. The more you practice it, the more it seeps into the rest of the day. And this is where Neville Goddard talks about the law of assumption, where you just assume that it's done, which means that you're not contradicting that part of the pie that you did in the earlier part of the day, well, not the earlier part of the night, the earlier part of the night that you continued throughout sleeping. And this is why Neville Goddard talked about practicing, or at least practicing, for 3 days. And this is where numbers get interesting. 3 times 8. If you go to sleep for 8 hours a day, and you do this for 3 nights, 3 times 8 is 24, which means that for 24 hours, you have vibrated that you are in the reality of being with this person, non-stop. 24 hours is a full day cycle. And after you end up doing that, it becomes much easier for you to experience it as you're going through the day. You actually may feel yourself like you are actually in this relationship with the other person throughout the day. You'll find yourself thinking like that, or thinking from the assumption of that, where you're like, oh, I can't wait to see them later today. this, all these wonderful things. And that's the whole practice of using any of this stuff, is that you're just putting wedges at different points of the day. So you're beginning the process of assuming that identity and feeling that reality like it's already done. And that's one of the methods that works really well. The other methods that work very well is using subliminals, or doing robotic affirmations, or doing morning meditation exercises, like Joe Dispenza morning meditation exercises. But all of the exercises are ultimately doing the same thing. You're taking a certain slice, whether it's 20 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour a day, and you are placing it at different points in your circle of the day. You're like, in the morning, I'm going to cut out 20 minutes, and I'm not going to exist in my current reality. For 20 minutes, I'm going to feel like I am in my ideal reality. I'm going to feel grateful. My reality may be I'm not healed and I'm, sick and going through stuff, but what I'm going to do is, for this slice during the day, I'm going to feel healthy, I'm going to feel grateful, I'm going to feel healed. And then you just add that in at different points in the day. Meditation teachers will teach you, like, hey, do your meditations, and now you're going to do it in the morning, do it in the afternoon, do it at night. And you're adding in more of these slivers throughout the day until it ends up becoming like an all-consuming pattern during the entire day, where you just feel like you're in this state for longer. And by doing this, you become more attractive, and you end up attracting this person back, because you're living in this state. You're uh, you're attractive because you feel good. You're having fun. You're enjoying yourself. Doesn't matter if you contact or you've been blocked. The only thing that the person is responding to is your character, your state, how you're acting. And if you just stay in your current state, they're going to keep acting the way that they've been acting. Um, doesn't matter. Anything that you say in terms of like circumstances are literally all just like random stuff. Because think of it this way: if you've blocked somebody, and for some strange reason, you don't know why, you block this person, you stop thinking about them, they go out of your mind, but for some strange reason, one day you have a dream about them. That's kind of weird. Another day rolls around, and then you start thinking about them throughout the day, and you're like, yeah, man, I kind of miss them. I wonder what they're up to. I wonder what they're doing. Then another day comes, and now you start thinking about them, and you're daydreaming about them throughout the day. Maybe you keep thinking about them as the day goes along. Maybe there's another night where you have another dream about them, and now they're just running through your head. What are you going to do in that scenario if somebody just doesn't leave your mind? You just keep thinking about them again and again and again. And then you notice things, like you notice people saying their name or talking about similar names while you're out in public. What are you going to do? Usually, you're going to get super curious, and you might end up maybe checking this person's social media where you didn't block them. Maybe you end up unblocking them. Maybe you reach out to them. Maybe you give them a phone call, or maybe you just do a "Hey stranger" text. That's what happens from the other person's perspective. The other person, just like any person, any person that you desire, that you want, they're human beings. Human beings never stay in the same state. If you've blocked somebody, there are times where you just decide that you want to talk to them, or you just get an urge to reach out to them, or an urge to check in on them and check their freaking IG story or their IG page and see how they're doing. That's just how people are. So just assume and know that at a certain point, this person's just gonna get the urge and decide to reach out to you. Your only job is to make your life feel as good as possible. And part of the way of doing that is just assuming that you're together with this person and doing everything in your power to feel good and enjoy yourself. One of the better things to do is to spend time working on yourself. Don't worry about how she'll reach out. She'll figure out a way, if that's her thing. Or she'll show up in your experience. Or you'll bump into each other. That's the big thing. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. And this happened to me recently. 2 weeks ago. Monday. It was a Monday. Me and SP, we decided to go on a little vacation, right? So we go to Orlando. We're hanging out in Orlando. The last video I shot and I put on the YouTube channel was me at the Airbnb. super lovely Airbnb. Hey, Raven. Merry Chrysler. Merry Chrysler, Merry Christmas. Welcome. So, me and my SP, we go on vacation, right? We're going to Epcot. We're having fun. We take the baby out to Epcot. It's her first time. She gets her little first time pin. It's fun. The first day we go, it's pouring rain, but either way, we're having a fun. We're having a good time. We're enjoying ourselves. Um, Her favorite ride that she enjoyed was a freaking little carousel that's over in like Disney Springs. Ugh. Anyway, so all this stuff happens. We're having fun. We're just spending time out there. We were supposed to only be there for 2 days. I extended out to a week. So the next Monday comes around and we check out of the second Airbnb. Okay, she'll reach out to you, dude. All you got to do is just imagine that you guys are together, and whatever method that works the best or makes the most sense will end up happening. And this story will help you understand like what happens. So we go, and on the Monday, I have a session with a client. I have a session with a coaching client, right? And it's supposed to happen at about 12 o'clock. So we get to Disney, we check out of the Airbnb at like 10 a.m. And I think we went to go eat something because we had made the rest of the food that we had in the fridge. And I'm eating in the car before we go out to Disney Springs. And I'm going to go to this rooftop bar in Disney Springs on top of this Coca-Cola building. And if you don't know about Disney Springs, it's this like downtown outdoor mall that Disney has that's beautiful. They got a whole bunch of restaurants, little attractions, and all this stuff. And it's fun. They have like some people walking around doing cool little activities in like the kid areas and all that stuff. Hey, what's up? Welcome from Detroit. Glad to have you here, man. Um, so we go there, and now I'm cutting it super close to this session that I have with a client. And I got like about 5 minutes before the call happens because it's like 11:55, and I'm walking with Stephanie and the baby in the stroller, and she looks over to me and she's like, "Hey, do you want me to go up to the rooftop bar with you?" And I'm like, "We went earlier. I did other sessions at the rooftop bar." And I was like, "Yeah, I want you to come with me." Now, because I'm going with Stephanie with the baby and the stroller, I can't walk around the building. And the building's gorgeous. It's about 3 stories tall, covered in this like huge panes of giant glass and exposed brick. 3 stories, and on top of this 3 story building is a rooftop bar that overlooks all of these things in this giant atrium area where people gather for like live music, and there's a movie theater nearby and a huge Planet Hollywood and all these other restaurants, and people are just hundreds of people are sprawling around, walking around this giant stone building, right? The last time I came, I didn't take the elevator. I walked up the the ramp because the only way to get up to there are only 2 ways to get up to the top floor of the rooftop bar. You either take the elevator up or you take the ramp that snakes around the entire building between the exposed brick and the glass. So it's supposed to be very, aesthetic, and it looks really cool, but it takes a very long time to get up there. So I'm not going to do that because I only have 5 minutes before the call with the client. So we walk into the first floor, which is a huge store with all these Coca-Cola hoodies and all this Coca-Cola related merch. And as we walk in, I have to walk directly through the entire store to get to the elevators, which are all the way in the back. All these things led together to come to this one moment. I walk in, I'm pushing the baby, and I notice a face show up in my peripheral vision as I'm walking into the store. And I recognize the face. And I'm like, oh no, oh Lord, sweet Jesus. My stomach drops. No, not now, not now. I know I put this out. I know I put out this energy. No, this can't be happening right now. I'm gonna guess who that was in my peripheral vision. It's my ex-girlfriend from high school. My ex-girlfriend from high school. Now, mind you, I remember I put out the long time ago. At one point, when me and my SP were split, this girl had dropped off the face of the earth. She completely deleted all social media, or she blocked me. I don't know. I think she deleted social media because nobody could find her. All of our friends that knew each other, like they just gone. We don't know where she is. She just disappeared. She stopped contact with everybody. So she was gone. I put out the energy. I put out the thing. I was like, I wonder how she's doing. I would love to see her. I would love to spend time with her. I would love to talk to her and see like how she's doing. And I remember putting out that intention, putting out that energy. I did my Neville Goddard exercise. I imagined talking to her, having a conversation, all that stuff. She freaking shows up. And I'm like, oh my God, she hasn't seen me. We haven't seen each other. And I'm like, I don't know if she recognized me. So I'm like, I'm going to walk straight to the elevator, not pay attention. I'm going to press the button. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. I'm like, no, I could already feel it. I already know she's going to come over. And she probably doesn't even know it. So I walked past her. She looked around in the store for a little bit. I'm waiting for the elevator to show up. And sure enough, I say it's going to happen. I'm like, I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I look over to the side. Guess who is walking my way? Over to me. And she's looking in the direction and she hasn't recognized me yet. And I'm like, okay, here we go. I already know it's going to happen. So I look over here and I wave and I say, hi. And she goes, oh, fuck. I knew she was not expecting to see me. So I go over to hug her. I'm like, hey, how you doing? How you been? Hey, this is Stephanie. And then I turn over the stroller. I'm like, hey, this is our daughter, Sophia. And she's with her partner. He's like, hey, this is Julian. And then she points over to a stroller and she's got a little baby over there. And she's like, that's Isabella. And I'm like, we're like, oh, that's so funny. Our daughter's name is Sophia Isabella. And she's like, oh, that's so funny. I was going to name my daughter Isabella Sophia. So freaking funny. And then I told her like, hey, I gotta go. I got a meeting upstairs. Which sounded like the worst excuse, but it was true. I was gonna do a session with my client upstairs on this rooftop bar. Sounded like the worst excuse, but I went upstairs, did the session, and the session went amazing. But all of the things in the universe lined up perfectly for that to happen. There were so many different little things that if one thing happened or shifted or happened a little bit later, that this wouldn't happen. We originally went on the trip and we were only going to be there for 2 days. If I would have stuck to the plan, I would have never seen her. That wouldn't have happened. But I extended it for another week. If I would have extended our Airbnb, our second Airbnb, only for 3 days instead of, well, I'm sorry, not 3 days, 4 days instead of 5 days, then we wouldn't have been there and we wouldn't have bumped into her. We would have left the day before. If I would have decided that I wanted to go to a freaking Starbucks instead of going to Disney Springs, that wouldn't have happened. If I would have decided to tell Stephanie the baby to go off and for me to walk around the building, I would have never walked into the store area and I would have never seen her. But because I put out the energy, because I put out that image, it just so happened that Stephanie said that she wanted to go with me upstairs. I knew we had to go to the elevator. We cut it close on time. I could have finished my food much quicker and gotten there earlier and not seen her at all. But because because I put the energy out, all of the things aligned perfectly for me to walk right past at that time while she was there. Mind you, our hometown was like hundreds of miles away. So I bumped into my ex-girlfriend hundreds of miles away from where we knew each other, from where we lived, and we just so happened to be at the same city, at the same place at Disney Springs, at the same freaking time. So when I tell people that circumstances don't matter, that your person blocking you or not being on social media, none of that matters because you will have ridiculously outlandish things that happen in your experience to have whatever you imagine happen. I had the conversation with her. So doesn't matter if your person blocked you. Doesn't matter if you guys have been no contact. I don't remember the last time I talked to her. It may have been, I don't think I've talked to her in maybe 12 years. I haven't talked to that girl in 12 years. She doesn't have social media anymore, or at least I just don't know if she does. None of our mutual friends, like, none of them knew where she was. I didn't have her number. We bumped into each other out of nowhere. So all you got to do is just put out the pattern and it'll happen. So don't worry about that. And if you don't want to bump into somebody and you want to imagine them talking to you, you can imagine a conversation if that's what you truly want. And that's what certain like coaches will teach you is just like, yo, hey, if that's what you want, then go out and do it. Which would be, the go out and do it would be imagine or see the image of you having a conversation with this person where you're having a back and forth text conversation or a phone call or FaceTime, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, that's a super long story to just tell you. Circumstances really don't matter. If you put out the image, the universe will find a way. I feel like Jeff Goldblum with that one. The life finds a way. Oh man, I could have been an old wise turtle in my past life. How do I retain the relationship smoothly for long term until I marry her? Uh, Good question. If you want to maintain a long-term relationship, the first thing you should do is figure out, and this is the kind of the point of life I kind of like derailed on this. Um, Find out what your ideal partner's makeup is. Um, because whether you know it or not, there are certain kinds of relationships that are more constructive to you as a person. And you've already experienced this. And let me know if you've experienced this down in the chat, please. I love this being interactive. I don't like just talking to myself, even though I kind of love the sound of my voice. Um, have you had an experience with somebody who you just felt like really connected with and things just flowed? Like conversations just felt like, oh my gosh, like a dance. Like, you're just like, oh, you look so good today. Oh, yes, thank you so much. And you love talking about the same subjects and just how this person looks at life and thinks about life just matches up with yours. You guys see eye to eye. Ting. When you guys have conversations together, it feels like sweet, sweet music, baby. Sweet music. Have you ever experienced that? Let me know in the chat. And if you happen to experience it, then what you've experienced is being in resonance. You found somebody who just so happens to match with you in these certain areas. This could be the areas of communication, the areas of just general outlook on life, how people handle conflict, physical, the physical stuff, uh, um, and maybe having the same love languages. These are all expressions of archetypes and how like you've attracted the right kinds of relationships. This is where we start talking about using numerology and astrology to help you figure out who are the types of people who are those matches that feel natural to you. The way I like to describe stuff related to like numerology and astrology is that these are just symbols that represent like energy patterns or archetypes. Sort of like how you have the different personality types like INFJ or ENFTP or whatever. All of these things are archetypes. They're meant to be patterns that people fall into. That's the reason why you can say, "Oh, I'm an INFJ," or "Oh, I'm an introvert," or "I'm an extrovert." Whatever you like to call yourself, what you're referring to is the quality of how I am as a person is this archetype. And people fall into different archetypes, and it makes it easier to categorize and understand yourself. This is part of the reason why people are like really into stuff like Harry Potter and the different houses in Harry Potter. Oh, I'm a Hufflepuff. Oh, I'm a Slytherin. Oh, I'm a Gryffindor, because there are archetypes, just like how people's energy is or what they feel comfortable with. Um, and by studying stuff like numerology and astrology, you have a greater understanding of the archetype of you. You have a greater understanding of what stuff feels most comfortable for you. Because certain people may not be well versed for certain types of work or certain types of relationships. Like, some people like to have conflict in their relationships. They like to have heat. They like to have passion. They like to have, this fighting back and forth. They like this fieriness. Other people don't want any of that at all. Some people like to be emotional, to be vulnerable, to have like these passionate exchanges with people. Other people want to be cold and left alone, and they don't want to be heavily emotional. And if you understand stuff like your like your astrology, not just your sun sign, but like your entire chart, your astrology chart, and you understand numerology, you can better understand yourself and the types of partners that would support you. And that's why I like studying Western astrology and Chinese astrology, because it gives you a framework to look at a person and not just see how beautiful they look, but to understand the underlying archetypes or energy patterns of how this person interacts in these different areas. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of women are into astrology and they ask you, like, hey, what's your sign? Why? Because they may be interested in how you look physically, but they're also interested in how the two of you may interact. Like, what's your energy? How do you handle conflict? How do you communicate? What's your outlook on life? How do you express yourself physically? Those are all the things that come into play when you're looking at a person's entire like astrological chart. You want to learn how somebody is in the world of love, you look at their Venus sign. If you want to understand how somebody is when it comes to communication, you check out their Mercury. What's the sign that they have in Mercury? If you want to understand how somebody is, I think love was it physicality might be Mars. I know um, love in that is Venus. Then you have the moon sign, which is how the person is, internally to themselves. Sun sign is how you are just generally, like your big major pattern. And if you understand all these different things, you understand the different ways that you fit together. And it also gives you a framework to understand why you have breakdowns in certain relationships. And if you understand this, you can make better decisions. And that is, I think, why it's so important for people to understand numerology and astrology for attracting the right kinds of relationships in business and in just relationships. Because not all relationships are created equal. Not all money is created equal. Not all sex is created equal, if we're being 100% honest. Just because you can connect with somebody and just because you can transact with somebody doesn't mean that it's going to be the most beneficial for relationship for both people. I've done business with people where I really shouldn't have done business with them. We just were two different people. We just didn't fit. We didn't gel. I've had business relationships where I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work out, because just how we were in terms of like our energies, how we communicated, it just didn't fit. And that's not a problem. They're not a bad person for that, and I'm not a bad person for that. It's just that we just didn't fit. What they wanted in a business relationship is different from what I wanted in a business relationship with like a client. And that's fine. Same thing with relationships. You may find somebody that you may be interested in. Visually, they may look good. You're like, ooh, yeah, you got all the curves, or you got all the muscles in the right places, and your face, ooh, that jaw, them lips, that hair. You may like that, But here's the thing when it comes to like long-term relationships. Looks aren't forever. And if you're going to have a long-term relationship, you know for a fact that that person's visually is going to degrade over time. It may not be this year, it may not be next year, it may not be in the next 10 years, but if you're building a long-term relationship, you're going to be together for decades. Lord willing, you'll be together for literally until the end of each other's lives, which means that visually, the body will begin to degrade over time. Even if you do take care of yourself and look good, you're not going to be as youthful and as beautiful. So you want to make sure that the person that you connect with, you have more in common and you have more things that fit together than just visually we look good or physically we, really well. Because over time that's going to get boring. And then you realize that there's so much more to your life. You want a partner that can communicate with you well. You want a partner that supports your dreams in your career or in your business. So you should be searching for a partner that fits the kind of lifestyle that you want long term. And one of the best ways of being able to evaluate if somebody is a good long term partner is not to look at them visually, but to look at their energy patterns. Like how does this person handle all of these different areas and how would they tend to act? And that's where I like studying symbols because they're archetypal abstractions that make it easier to understand, oh, this person is going to interact in this way or is likely to interact in this way. So that's why we do stuff like study Chinese astrology, Western astrology, and numerology to understand, oh, is this person a good fit for you or not? Or is this person going to be a karmic relationship that's meant to like illuminate things for yourself so you're able to grow as a person? Because the last thing you want to do is to get yourself. Actually, no, no, no. I don't want to even say that. The last thing you want to do is to sign a soul contract with another person, to sign a marriage contract, to be in a long term agreement and a long term relationship with somebody and not know what you're signing up for. And that's oftentimes what people do when you jump into a relationship and you don't have any way of evaluating outside of, oh, I feel like I like this person and they look good. We should be together. No, 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 no. Take some time and analyze these things to figure out, hey, are we actually a long-term compatible match? Or if we're not, these are not if we're not. Or hey, these are other areas where we may have some conflict. Let's keep this in mind so that we can work on this. Because to be 100% honest, you don't have to be with a person that is 100% your astrological match. You don't. You really don't. To be honest, me and my specific person, we're at odds. She's a Sagittarius, I'm a Capricorn. Fire sign, earth sign. Clash. Uh Chinese zodiac. She's a rabbit, I'm a rooster. Clash. We are literally enemy signs, which means that there's a high degree of attraction between us, but at the same time, we also like have a friction and clashing between us because our natures are very opposing. And the beautiful thing about that relationship is that it's given me the opportunity to use that fire and to use that friction and tension to explore and understand myself more deeply. And there are certain things that I may do naturally that have like an adverse effect on her, like how I talk or how I'll respond to certain situations. And this is why it's important to understand astrology and numerology when attracting the right kinds of relationships. Because I understand how our natures are opposing, I am aware of how my tendencies might affect her. So I will make sure to compromise or I'll make sure to make like concessions so that she's comfortable. Because I understand my partner and I want to make sure that she's happy. So understanding numerology and astrology and all this stuff isn't to basically say, oh no, this is not your ideal person. It's basically to know what are the terms and conditions of this relationship before I get into it. Like that's all you're pretty much doing. Because if you're already attracted to this person, understand there are terms and conditions that are going to come up when you guys interact and you guys talk. When you guys have a relationship, when you guys decide to have a kid or not have a kid, all this stuff is going to come up. You don't want to say yes even when you don't mean it, though. That's one big thing. This is not talking about that. This is more so like focusing on like understanding how am I supposed to interact with this person and react to certain ways that they are and be okay with them. So for me and her, it's like I understand her nature. I understand the things that she tends to do, and it's not like I get mad at her. I know that's just how she is. That's how she's wired. And I expect her to act in certain ways and to do certain things, and I find it funny, and we because I understand and I know what to expect because I basically read and understand the contract, I know how to interact with her and I know how she's going to show up and I know how she's going to act. So nothing is there's no really big surprises. It's just, oh no, that's just how she is. Okay, cool. And that's all I want people to know is if you're attracting a relationship, just know the kind of relationship that you're going to get into. And then you get to make the decision. Is this the kind of relationship that I want long term or is it not? And then it's okay to have either decision. It's okay to say no, this is not the relationship for me. And it's also okay to say, you know what, this may not be all these other things, but this is a relationship that I want to explore, so I'm going to say yes to this. And both are equally fine. But if you want a loving long-term relationship that's going to be beautiful and wonderful and effortless, you gotta know the terms and conditions and you gotta know what you're compatible with. Like for instance, like my DJI, my DJI mic has two kinds of connectors. It's got the USB-C connector and it's got the lightning cable. And DJI understands that people with different phones have different ports. So they gave two different things that you can use to connect them. Now that doesn't mean that a USB-C phone is better than a lightning cable phone. It just means it's a different connector. So for whatever situation there is, you just choose the right connector so that you can make sure that the microphone actually picks up what you're talking about. Benjamin. Oh, yo, what's up, Benjamin? So through testing, I find tarot, astrology are a reflection of my inner world, my I am, which is why I don't get too hung up or stressed on it. If it resonates, awesome. If not, I am corrected. That is 100% correct. Yes, you are correct, Benjamin. Same with me. Same with me and my specific person and all these other things. Is that these are meant to be reflections of you. They're meant to be reflections of your relationships so that you're better able to understand what's going on. And if you want something to be different, you just align your energy with what you want to be different. You make a different decision. But you should be aware, just kind of like how you dress or how your hair is. Certain days, you'll notice in my videos, certain days my hair is a mess. Other days, my curls are a little bit more defined. My curls are popping. But the only way that I'm able to do that is because I go to the mirror and I look at myself and I'm like, I might need to put a little bit more, uh, product in my hair, or I need to, clean up the beard or do something. So you use mirrors to look at yourself and to make decisions on how you want to change things. So use any of these processes, whether it's numerology, tarot, astrology, as a reflection and use it as an opportunity to say, maybe I want to change this about my I am or my concept. Hey dude, good morning from my country. I'm in my inner self-talk, power of I am. I'm the best in everything now. The old self is slowly dying. Yeah, that's true. That happens. So ego death. It stopped the protection thought that does now. It's totally okay. Oh yeah, that's good. It's totally silent. I wonder. You would also have been in this position where no inner negativity sound, only positive thing, and you don't see any moment. My question is that the thing everything is happening? So, if I get your question right, like, is that when everything is working, when you are just like positive and you don't have any negativity or any negative thoughts coming up? And if that question's right, to let me know, boys. But yes, that is essentially correct. You are in essence, um, you are in essence perfect unfolding happening, perfect unfolding, because now my ego is trying to make me react like now. You don't see anything, so get reaction is this. What did you do? Oh, so like you just continue to persist. It doesn't matter what comes up, whether it's internal or external. You just continue to hold the same thought, which is positivity, and you hold it long enough that everything just ends up changing and like moving to the way that you think. Um, and you just practice it. That's the point of doing any of the meditations, whether it's silent meditations, mantra meditation. You're just getting a stronger hold of your emotions and your thoughts until you're able to just stick with what you think. You're able to concentrate and hold a mental keynote for long enough so that others vibrate in resonance with it or think the same thing. And congratulations, it is now a 2 day. Okay. I hope I put out my patterns that I wanted. So numerology, and this is I'm going to end up doing a series on this stuff. In numerology, there are in numerology the numbers for days, because each day actually has a specific number energy attached to it. Um, each day has a different number energy associated with it. So right now I'm on Eastern Standard Time. So yesterday was a 1 day. And 1 days are associated with the masculine or the penetrating energy. So they're very good for starting things or outlining things. That's why I decided to hop on live. I wanted to, excuse me, I wanted to make a video where I talked about some of these concepts because I wanted to do a series where I started talking about numerology and how you could use it for like business and relationships. Because it's just another one of the spiritual systems. And Neville Goddard just so happens to be one of the systems that I use and I talk about. Well, not Neville Goddard as a spiritual system, but like the teachings from the Kabbalah and mystical, because that's what Neville actually teaches is mystic Christianity. So Christianity from the lens of like Gnosticism and mysticism. So you have a greater understanding of like your imagination and how to use your imagination as a creative power instead of prayer, which oftentimes for the Christian or the basic the basic religious person is oftentimes associated with getting down on your knees, clasping your hands, closing your eyes, and begging, please, 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 like a little kid just saying please, 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 which is strange because now that I'm thinking about it, the only place that I can think of that this came from was like seeing that in TV shows and movies. Like I think I remember like TV shows and movies. I can't pinpoint ones in specific, but I just remember the image, and that's where that comes from. Because I'm like, the image has to come from somewhere of just somebody there, hands clasped there, and I don't think anybody actually taught me that. Now that I think back to it, I have really interesting religious background. My parents, my mom was Catholic, my dad was Christian, so I actually got baptized twice. I was baptized, well, as a kid, I was baptized twice. I've had multiple baptisms. But I was baptized Catholic and I think Baptist as well. So I have two sets of godparents. And I have experiences in both churches, a lot of different churches actually. So I've been to Haitian churches, I've been to Catholic churches and Catholic mass, I've been to modern Christian churches where it's like, yeah, ooh. I've been to mega churches, and then I've also been to like deep South black churches that go on for like 2-3 hours. Whoo, woo, buddy. So I've had a whole like host of different experiences. And one thing that I can remember from Catholic church was like the Catholic church hokey pokey where you're like stand up, sit down, you have the pews with the little like leg thing, so you put the leg thing down. there's like a leg cushion on the back of a pew, so you pull it down, and now you kneel on the leg cushions, and like you put your hands and you close your eyes. And nobody taught me. You're welcome. You're welcome, boys. Nobody taught me like what we were supposed to be doing when we like closed our hands or when we did this whole thing. Nobody taught me. They just said, "Hey, sit there, kneel there, hands like this on the pew, and just sit there for a minute and just kind of like." And I remember like poking my eyes, looking at other people around, like, "Hey, what are people doing? Why are we all just like looking around?" And I was always wondering, like, why did we do that? Nobody told me what we were supposed to do when we prayed. They just said, I just remember in church, they would be like, let us pray. And then you would just kneel down and like close your eyes. And I'm like, how am I supposed to do this? What am I supposed to do? And I'd be like, hey, God, what's up? How you doing, man? Kind of want this thing, please, please, please. And I don't think most of the time there's like in church the instruction manual of how you're supposed to communicate with God and communicate with divinity. It's just kind of like assumed that you know that, which kind of doesn't make sense because, like, how are you supposed to know what you're supposed to do? uh, if Neville was alive during the Middle Ages, he'd be burnt at the stake for blasphemy. I was raised Catholic, and the Bible didn't finally click until Neville. Even my teachers and priests didn't understand. Yeah, that's true. A lot of people just tell the stories and they just repeat what they've heard before, but there's not a lot of understanding. It's super funny. It's kind of like K-pop idols, because like Stephanie and the baby, they love K-pop idols, and we went to like a light show. There's like a Christmas light show at somebody's house. They just play music, and we didn't listen to the music that they have on the radio because they have a radio station for that house that syncs up with the music. We would play K-pop because they love K-pop, and we would just like play our different songs and see if it would match up to the music, and it was always super fun. And one of the things that's funny about K-pop is that they will sing their songs in rap in both Korean and English. And not all the people in the bands know English. So they'll actually learn how to say the lyrics just like phonetically and learn how to sound it out, but they'll have no clue what the hell they're saying. So it's like the equivalent of that, where they may not understand it, and there are Korean fans who will hear the words and they'll repeat it, and it'll sound like they know what they're saying, but they're literally just saying the sounds like music, where it's just like and they're saying the words, but they have no understanding about what they're saying. So sometimes that happens to be the case in spirituality and like in churches, is that certain people will teach, but they'll say the words kind of like the K-pop people say in English, but they'll have no understanding of like what they actually supposed to mean, which does happen. Yes, what you said, it was my question. Okay, good. I'm glad that. But I also wonder, you two had a situation where your ego thought stopped, and now you don't see any moments, but you are persisting and being in your awareness. What did you do? What was your experience and your story in SP? I want to listen to that. I love to listen to you, dude, because you're my first teacher in law of attraction. Okay, cool. Yeah. Uh, so I'll tell you a little bit about my story. But I want to see if I can finish my thought with the whole prayer thing. Oh, going in church, praying with the hands and eyes closed and like begging, please, please help me, please, 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 please. I don't know what art I saw. It was probably some TV show or some movie, probably some kids thing. I know I got indoctrinated at some point where I believed that the way you're supposed to pray is that you beg, you ask. And I'm not the only person. Like, let me know down in the chat, like, is that your experience too? Like, let me know, is that your experience too, where that was what you originally taught, was like you're supposed to beg, you're supposed to be like, God, please, in Jesus name, give me this thing. Or if you're not Christian, like whatever your insert deity here. If you're Catholic, then what priest, not what priest, what saint, what saint were you praying to asking for help with this thing? And it's like a begging process. Um, and that's what knew for a long part of my life, and that's why I was like, this doesn't work, because I would beg. That's what I was taught. I would beg, and nothing would show up. And it wasn't until I started studying until what, college? I think I started studying this in like college, where I started going into studying Neville Goddard. I started reading Neville Goddard's books. I started listening to lectures from people like Manly P. Hall. I started studying Eastern philosophy, yoga. I read Autobiography of a Yogi, and all of these other things. And once I started learning these other religious systems, I was like, this stuff makes sense. When I started learning spirituality and law of attraction, I was like, in reading The Secret, I was like, this makes sense. Why weren't they teaching that back in like school? Like, these things make sense. And it wasn't until I started getting older and like I dropped out of college and I started like really diving deep into this, was when I started really getting deep into Neville Goddard and mystical Christianity and Hebrew, the original text, so like Hebrew and Aramaic. And once I started listening and learning um, the Hebrew teachings and the Aramaic teachings, what I realized was, oh, hold up, wait a minute. All that like spirituality and New Age stuff that I've been learning, that's in the original Hebrew or in the Aramaic. It's just completely out of the English. Like, it goes over like people's heads in the English, because the English just doesn't like comprehend it, or it was just simplified in a way where the meaning was taken out of it. Like ruha. Christians will be like, oh, you're not supposed to meditate and all this stuff. What are you talking about? The Holy Spirit, the concept of spirit or spiritos comes from Greek. That's a Greek, and that's not only a Greek word, but a Greek concept. That concept in language did not exist in Aramaic and Hebrew. Wasn't even there. The word that the guy actually said, Yeshua, the thing that the guy actually said, or Jesus, what he said was ruha. Whenever he spoke about the Holy Spirit, he used the word ruha, which is the feminine word for the breath of life. So when he said to connect to the Holy Spirit, what he was actually saying was connect to the breath of life. Like when God breathed the breath of life into Adam, he used ruha, the breath. That was what they referred to. It wasn't the Holy Spirit. They were referring to this connection, this thing that flows in us, that is in our bodies and gives us animation in life from the beginning of our days to the end of our days. The end of our days, the way that our life ends, is from the last breath. And with that last breath, we too go with it. It is the gift. It is the thing that connects us all. Because I breathe, and you breathe the same air. We're connected with the air. It is the thing that is invisible, that is connected with all of us. And the more we focus in on the breath, the more we get control over our hearts and our emotions. So what he was telling people was, breathe. Connect to the breath. Connect to your feeling. Connect to this breathing and this breath of life that gives you joy, that gives you love, that gives you bliss. That's all you're doing in meditation. Meditation is just taking some time, sitting down and breathing. Yes, that's my true religion, is Hindu. We were gonna say, yo, pray what we want, like example, God, please give me this, or please give me, I want this. Today our math teacher should not give us an assignment, please and away. Don't forget to breathe. Yeah, Penelope. Don't forget to breathe. That's all that they were talking about. So like, that was a reflection of understanding languages and understanding like deeper concepts that are completely left and out of the conversation for most religions. Um, and when you start studying them and understanding it, it starts making more sense, because when you understand like the underlying teachings, it's like, oh wait, no, they're teaching pretty much like similar stuff. It's just a different way of talking about the divine and like how to breathe and how to be a human being, a good human, because that's all we want to be, is to be a good human being, to live a good life, to enjoy ourselves. And the way that you're actually supposed to pray, which is one of the things that I got when hey, what's up? Oh, it's Igor Montoya. What's up? What's up? What's up? How you doing, man? Um, Prayer. The way you're actually supposed to do prayer properly is you assume that it's already done. You don't beg. You close your eyes and go to your imagination and imagine that the thing is already done. You don't pray and ask for rain. And I got this from the Greg Brandon example. He was with a shaman, and an indigenous person, and they were hanging out, spending some time together. And the region that they were in, if you don't know Greg Braden, his work is amazing. He's studied a lot of early religions and bought in a lot of really cool teachings on like early Christianity and the proper way to do prayer. Really interesting guy. Uh, Exists in a similar vein as like Joe Dispenza and those types of people, but he has studied the religions intensely, and he's like gone to a bunch of different religions to understand like how they use belief, how they use the imagination in different ways in all of these different indigenous cultures. Braden, it's BRA, I think DDEN, if I'm not mistaken. Great Braden. Yeah. If you search it up on YouTube, it'll come up Penelope, but you just search up just with the two D's, if I'm not mistaken. Braden. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm not sure if I'm 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's BRADDEN. Um, and one day he's with this Native American person, and they're in an area that's experiencing drought. And the Native American guy turns over to Greg, and he's like, "Hey, we're experiencing a drought. I'm gonna go pray for rain. You want to come?" He's like, oh, "Of course. Oh my God, I want to see this whole ritual. I would love to see how you guys do it." So he's like, "All right, cool. We're gonna go to a sacred site." So they go driving to the forest to this place, this sacred site, which is a open clearing where they have these stones set up in this altar. And he said that this is a sacred site where the space between the physical and the spiritual world is very thin. It's very thin in this area. So he goes there. He takes off his shoes, walks into the circle, looks up towards the sky, takes a breath, then turns to him and says, "Okay, ready? Let's go for some lunch." And Greg's like, "Yo, what are you talking about? I thought you were supposed to do like a hey you, rain dance, hey you." He's like, "Nah, we don't do any of that." So then he's like, "Well, then what did you do?" And he was like, "Well, I didn't ask for rain. I prayed rain. I stood there in the circle and I pointed my face towards the sky and I felt the rainwater hit my face. I smelled the smell of ozone or the smell of rain on the dirt and in the earth. I felt my feet in the mud. I prayed rain." So they went over to lunch. That was it. Super quick. And sure enough, later on that day on the news, area has record rain floods. It's crazy. Because this dude he prayed for rain. He prayed rain. Well, that's even more perfect, Penelope. It's a beautiful, lovely example there, then, Penelope, that it's raining over there. But that's how you're supposed to do it. You don't ask, you don't beg, you use your mind and your imagination to construct the reality as if it is already done and feel gratitude that the thing that you imagine is already finished. If you didn't take anything else away from this session, this live, any of my videos, and you just take that, if you just take that little nugget, you would have everything that you wanted. You don't need to listen to another video. You don't need to read another book. You don't need to do none of that. If you just take that and apply it, like if you actually did it, your life would be completely transformed. Completely. You can have anything that you wanted. Money, relationship, health. But people like to make it extra complicated. It really isn't. You think of something that would make you feel good. It needs to be close enough to your current experience that you could believe it. And then you imagine it, see it, feel it, and then you just let it go. The reason why it works really well to do it when you're about to go to sleep is because you naturally let it go. You know the law of detachment where they say let things go. Excuse me, when you fall asleep, you can't keep thinking about what you're thinking. You naturally let the image go. Naturally. So just do the same thing. If you could only choose one forever, 100% effective meditation or effortless desired resonance when awake. 100% effective meditation. Because with 100% effective meditation, you can use that for just about anything. Meditation gives you the strength and the focus to have the desired resonance that you want. Think of it like singing in the shower or doing like singing practice. You can sing all day long, or you can go into singing practice with a vocal coach and really get your vocal cords really strong so that you're able to just hit those high notes really good. That's essentially what you're doing with meditation. With meditation, you're learning how to relax the throat. You're learning how to relax your diaphragm to really get good and strong with your voice so that you're able to belt out those high notes when you're performing. But it comes with practice. So when people sing, it's the same thing. If you're trying to manifest something, if you've learned how to practice and sing those notes, they'll come out clear and nice, to say the least. Yeah, yeah. So that's why I like meditation, because meditation can be used for everything else. It's powerful stuff, to say the least. I also think numerology is super important for attracting relationships on certain days. Because if you understand the energy of a day, you can actually make plans on certain days that are more beneficial and more in alignment. Oh yeah. Your question. Thank you for reminding me. My story with my ideal person. Okay, so yeah, what happened? I did talk a little bit about numerology, but I didn't go into depth with all the stuff. General gist is just the fact that with numerology and astrology, those are symbols that you can use to understand the energy patterns behind a person, because you can like how a person looks and enjoy how the two of you interact, but you may not understand the rest of how you interact in all of these other areas. If you use like symbolic systems or archetypal systems like numerology and astrology, you get a better picture of the terms and conditions of your relationship with this person if you decide to pursue this relationship. So you now have a greater understanding of what's going to happen between you and this person. So you can decide, yes, this is a relationship, this is a contract that I want to get into, or no, this is not actually what I was looking for. I'm going to choose to like find someone else who's a better fit for me. Um, yeah. Triple freaking Scorpio. Okay. All right, but all right, Penelope. I'm actually a Capricorn stellium, so what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, Scorps? Brian, I want to ask you if we can manifest anything, then isn't astrology wrong and can be changed? No, it is not. So here's what I would have to say about this. You can manifest anything within reason, which is a very like key distinction, because you'll have most people who will tell you, yeah, you can manifest anything. Well, I mean, technically you can. Most people won't. Just like saying you can lift any amount of weight. Well, technically, you can get strong enough to lift most things, but most people are not gonna care about it that much to put that much energy to lift as much as like the dude who played the mountain in Game of Thrones. You ain't gonna be like Thor Bjornsson, which if I'm not mistaken, I think is his name. Um, you ain't gonna lift as much like that. You just don't care about it as much, and your body's not built for that. So technically you can do that, but are you going to put as much energy and thought into it to do that? No, because there's probably a lot easier things to do. Like, what is your actual goal? Do you just want to lift lots of heavy weight, or do you want to have a really hot banging body? Because to have a hot banging body, you don't have to do this crazy thing that you thought you wanted to do. You just do something that works for you so that you get your body as ripped and lean as you want to look. Then why to manifest what's going on is going to happen as per astrology. So here's the interesting thing when it comes to astrology. This is letting you know what is the actual energy pattern in the relationship, because when we come into contact with another human being, we're not just interacting with the person, we're interacting in terms of like energies and frequencies. I guess that's one way of putting it. Or archetypes. You have archetypes, just like characters. So regardless of how you feel about, let's say, Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter, because if you understand the archetypes of these characters, you understand that Harry Potter is the protagonist. He is the hero of the story. That is Harry Potter's archetype. And the other archetypes that Harry is the hero of the story. Harry is also a Gryffindor, and Harry is a guy. So these are all different archetypes for Harry. Draco Malfoy is another character in the movie, but we know the archetype of Draco Malfoy. Draco Malfoy is a Slytherin. He is evil, and he is the antagonist, or an antagonist or contagonist inside of Harry Potter. So we already know that because of their archetypes, we already know how these two people are going to interact together because we understand the archetypes. We know how a hero is supposed to be when they're confronted by the antagonist. They're supposed to clash. They're supposed to not like each other. They're supposed to be mad at each other. They're supposed to argue and fight. Why? It's their archetype. That's just how they're supposed to work. Why? Because that's just how stories operate. Stories based on archetypes. You create characters and stories so you have conflict. Because if there is no conflict, there is no story. So you need the duality. You need both. So in that, there's not only just the protagonist. There's not only just the antagonist. You also have henchmen, which are the people who are around Draco Malfoy, which would be like Crabbe and Goyle. So these other two guys, they're like, hey, 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 we're friends with Draco. And that's why we don't like you, Harry Potter, and we don't like you, Ron, and we're gonna bully you guys. Why? Because those are their archetypes. That's how they're supposed to act. They're not supposed to like them, but there may be times where they act sympathetic and they act nice, which is what happens in the different movies as you watch Harry Potter. You also have his sidekicks. So Harry Potter is not all alone. Harry Potter has Ron and Hermione. They're supposed to be the supportive characters. They're the characters that are supposed to help Harry out and to interact with him and teach him about this world. So they're not the heroes of the story, because that's not their archetype. That's not what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be supportive. They're supposed to be helpers. That's why they're the sidekicks. Um, and just like you have these archetypes in stories, we have other archetypes in life. We just don't call people protagonists, henchmen, and antagonists. People have different archetypes, and this is where we get astrology. Astrology are different types of archetypes. So, depending on who you are yourself, you understand what your role is, which would be your numerology, your astrological sign or whatever. That's how you understand who you are as a character. That's your character. And because you understand who you are as a character and who your story is and what you're exploring, you understand how other characters are supposed to be in relation to you. You understand that, actually, there's a really good example. You got the movie Wicked. Wicked's a fabulous example. Wicked is a reimagining of the Wizard of Oz story. So for Wicked, you literally have somebody who in the original Wizard of Oz is the antagonist, who's the Wicked Witch of the West, and now they moved her from being the Wicked Witch of the West, the antagonist, to Dorothy. Now she is the protagonist of the story. So because Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, is now the protagonist of the story, everybody else has a different role. Galinda is no longer just this helpful, guide character. Galinda is a slight antagonist or sidekick character. So there's clashing between them. So Galinda is no longer in the same position because now we're seeing her from the perspective of Elphaba, this protagonist in the story. The Wizard of Oz is no longer this great, awesome, wonderful person. Now he is in the antagonist. He's the one who's going after and he's attacking Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West. So that's a perfect example. You had somebody who was an antagonist in one story who's now the protagonist, and everybody else's position is different. It's not necessarily that the people changed, it's just we're now looking at them from the perspective of another character. So the same thing happens with you. When we understand who you are as a character, we understand how you relate to every other character in your story. Because you're going to interact with people differently. Yes, they did kill Dirty in the movie. But if Draco's friends want to be sidekicks of Harry Potter, is it possible by manifestation? Yes, because there were points in the movie where they were not arguing, where they were not against Harry Potter, and they were helpful to Harry Potter. That did happen in the movies. There were points when that happened. But here's the thing that's interesting. You can get people to change how they are as a character or to shift, but they will usually end up reverting to what feels natural to them. So even though you can make changes and make shifts in astrology and the energies, just like somebody decided, hey, the Wicked Witch of the West, we don't want her to be the enemy anymore. We're going to make her the protagonist. They did that. They reworked this stuff. So yes, you can change it, but it does require a lot of mind and a lot of energy. And for most people, you really don't need to do that. Like, you don't need to change things. You don't need to change the world. The easiest way and the quickest way to get what you want is literally just go with the flow. Like, don't try to change things in terms of relationships or trying to change other people. Just like go with the flow. Like, I understand certain things about my partner. I'm not going to try and change those certain things. There are certain things about her where we have natural clashes. I'm not going to change them. I'm going to construct our lives to support her so that she can still live and experience those things that she wants. But, like, I don't need to change her. And it's not that astrology can be changed. It's not that astrology can be changed. It's that you are altering yourself. That's the big thing. You're not altering anybody else. You are altering yourself to have a certain type of reality or a certain type of thing. So you're using your energy to twist and shape things. You're using higher law to bend lower laws, which requires a lot of energy, but you don't need to do that. It is possible, but not necessary, because it requires a great deal of energy, mental energy, physical energy, emotional energy, and I do not recommend doing that. It is much easier, it is much faster, and it is much more wonderful to just ask for the divine to give you like the perfect thing. Don't try. It's just like using my daughter. One of the things we got for Christmas were like the shapes things, where you would pick up a shape out of like these cutouts and you would push them in. You can technically take a shape that's not supposed to fit there, and if you push hard enough, you can break the shape and get it to fit in there. You can either break the mold or break the shape and get it through there. But there are easier things to do, like moving the shape that doesn't fit and putting it in the slot that it's meant to be in. Oh man. In one of your videos, you mentioned how you use Ho'oponopono in your relationship. Can you elaborate on how that happened? That actually will lead to me answering boy's question. When did you see any moment, but you were persisting and you had a great awareness? What was it that you had to do in your experience? Okay, so to answer your question, boys, like let's say you're in the middle of persisting and then something else happens and you have to stay in the state. That's what happened to me in my manifestation with my relationship. I had an assumption where I was together with my person. We were back together. I was like, yeah, we're together. We're together. We're enjoying each other. We're together. We're together. For other people looking from the outside looking in, I was saying what I desired. I was thinking it. I was feeling it. And this is why you're supposed to do this stuff in private. I was feeling and imagining being in the state. And when I would interact with her, like we were not staying in the same place. She was in Central Florida. I was in South Florida. We would text or she would call me and FaceTime. She would waver. There were times where we were good in the relationship and she would, flirt with me and joke. And then there were other times where she was just angry at me and pissed at me and she would yell at me and all this stuff. And it would vacillate between the two. One day she'd be pissed at me. One moment, and this would happen over the course of the day. One moment she's pissed at me. Another moment she's happy, joking and enjoying herself and showing me her and my daughter, and they're having fun. And then she'll be pissed at me again and be like, "Hey, I need this. I need this. I can't believe you did all this stuff." And it would go back and forth between that. And there were other times where she would block me and she wouldn't talk to me. It was a mess. During that entire time, I did not stop thinking the way that I wanted. I did not stop my visualization processes where I saw that I was in a relationship with her. I did not stop reading my little notes that she gave me from before, imagining that we were together. I did not stop imagining, seeing the conversations. I didn't stop hearing her voice in my mind, saying the things that I wanted to hear her say again and again and again, and feeling that joy inside of my heart. Persisting is merely closing your eyes, withdrawing yourself from the physical experience, and feeling and experiencing what you want, thinking the way that you want, experiencing what you want. It's not, oh, my 3D and all this stuff. It's like, no, I just practiced how I felt when I was in private, when I was alone. So when I went out into the world, I could keep practicing it, even though somebody might have been singing or doing something different. It's kind of like when an actor stands on stage. When you're standing on stage as an actor, it doesn't matter whether you hear somebody in the audience make a sound, say a certain line or something else like that, or anybody else on stage messes up. You hit your lines no matter what because you rehearsed them. So what I was doing to persist was I was laying down, doing sats, I was affirming, I was going into the feelings, I was doing subliminals, and I was under the assumption that we were together. It didn't matter what anybody said off stage. It didn't matter if any other actor was saying the wrong lines. I hit my lines. I thought the same way. My character did not change. I was a professional. That's what I was thinking in my mind. I'm professional. And what is my professional? What is my character on stage? It doesn't matter what anybody screams at me. I'm with my person. That's it. It doesn't matter how she acts on stage if she forgets her lines. I'm with my person. That's it. Plain and simple. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm with my person. I'm a professional actor. I do not mess up my lines. I know my lines. You mess up, it doesn't matter. I'm still gonna be under the assumption. I may have to improv around your lines because if you say something mean or something like that, I'm like, oh, she just. I would rationalize from my character, which would be, oh, she's just she, that's so cute that she's saying that. It's just that she can't deal with these emotions or doesn't understand that how I feel and how much I care about her. She'll understand. It's fine. I still love her. I'll make sure that she's taken care of. And no matter what happened, no matter what anybody else said, no matter what she said, no matter how things showed up, I stayed the character. My character did not change. I rehearsed my lines and kept in character. So when we talk about persisting, that's what you do. So we ended up coming back together. Crazy things ended up happening. I mean, like some crazy stuff. And I had to come back up here for an emergency to be around the family and to be around her. And when that happened, we had a third person. She was talking to somebody else, and she was like, "I don't want to be with you. I want to be with this other person." And then it went from that to, "Oh, you're in the roster," because I'm under the assumption that we're together. And then it went to, "Oh, you're in the roster as a potential person for me to be together. I'm weighing between you and this other guy." I'm like, "No, there is no other person. It's just me." And then sure enough, everything just fell into place. I never changed my assumption. I just, anything that came up, I held the assumption, and then everything just fell into place perfectly. I can go into the whole story about it. My phone's gonna die soon, so I don't want to even like do that. But literally, just persist. I think that that example is probably like my favorite example, one of the best. Be the character. Stop being an actor who switches between roles. If you're in the middle of a play and you're literally Simba, stop going and playing Othello. Stop going and playing Scar. Stop going and switching to the character of like Santa from The Nightmare Before Christmas. You are one character. Even though you're an actor and you have the ability to play multiple characters, stop it. You're one character. You have one motivation. You have one dream. Stick with it and do your play. Practice your lines. And once everybody else who's other actors who remember the lines from all their different plays, they'll realize, oh wait, oh shoot, I'm sorry. I thought we were doing this play. I didn't know that we were doing The Lion King. Okay, I'll say my lines. Simba, remember who you are. Yeah, that's what you're doing. What you're doing is you're saying your lines in your play for long enough for all the other actors in your play to remember all your actors in your play for them to you're waiting for all the other actors in your play to remember what the actual play is about and what play you guys are on stage with. And what's up, Ashley? Glad to have you here, man. Well, now I'll talk about the Ho'oponopono. I can't communicate with people around and from the community or friends or relationships. Everybody around me seems to naturally communicate with people, but for me, I don't even know what to say or speak. Trying to communicate daily, but I fail at it miserably. Makes me sad and gives me anxiety and makes me conscious. But attracting and manifesting your ex, didn't you change your astrology or shape instead of choosing to go with the flow? Like in my case, astrologer said that me and my SP are incompatible. So here's the important thing, Yay. Me and my SP are also like that. But again, like I said earlier with the astrology, is that you don't change it, dude. That's kind of, well, actually, no. You can change it. It requires a lot of energy. I didn't do that. That's not what I did. What I did was I understood in terms of Chinese astrology, Western astrology, and numerology what my pattern was and what her pattern was. And what I looked at was like, okay, this is how our energies interact. And I used it like a contract to understand how me and her interact. And it's not just that people are incompatible. What they actually mean is your energies clash in these areas, and understand how the energies clash in these areas. So when people say that you're incompatible, what they actually mean is in these specific areas, these are frictions or naturally how your two energies create like conflict between the two of you. So if you were come together in a relationship, understand that that relationship would have conflict in these particular areas. Like for instance, there's conflict between my daughter and my SP, because astrologically the relationship is supposed to be a karmic one. My Daughter, literally, I told her, like, hey, if our daughter comes out at this month, it would be the same astrological month as her sister. I'm like, if that happens, just know that it's a karmic relationship for you to better understand how your relationship is with your sister, you and your sister, or your mother and your sister, to have a like a greater understanding of like that energy relationship from a different perspective. My daughter was born on the same day as her sister. So they share the same birthday. So the statement that I told her months before our daughter was born was correct, down to the day. So they love each other. They have a wonderful relationship, but there are natural little bits of like conflict between the two of them. And I told her and I informed her, I'm like, it's not that you're not going to love your daughter or she's not going to love you. Just understand this relationship is going to illuminate different things because of the conflicts and tensions between the two of you. And that's not a problem. That's not an issue. It's just a contract between the two of you. And I want to make you aware of what this relationship is going to be like. So that's what you should know about any SP or any other person. You're just becoming aware of what that relationship is going to bring. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just, oh, this is what it's going to be. And then you can make an informed decision. Is this a relationship that I want to be a part of? Is this a contract or an agreement that I want to be a part of? Just like when you have the terms and conditions from different companies, you can decide to say, decline, I don't want to agree to these terms and conditions, or agree, I agree to these terms and conditions. That's it. And some of them just are like really beneficial symbiotic relationships where just everything fits together, and other ones there's natural conflicts, but the conflicts are there for a reason. So if you want conflict in your relationship, then be okay with it and understand that that's going to happen, and understand what you're signing up for. So that's why I think that people should understand numerology, astrology, and Chinese astrology, is to understand the nature of the relationship that you're going to get into. And if you decide, you can opt out of certain relationships and go into relationships that are a reflection of what you actually want. Huh, what's good? What's good? Yeah, you all become the rock. Hey, I'm glad I'm one of your favorite mixed race careers. Awesome. How do you handle a thought about our desire when it comes to us throughout the day? Um, you move it from being a desire to being an enjoyed moment. And it's how do I describe this? It's like the difference between a thought and a memory, right? I can think about the concept of a chicken sandwich, like a really good chicken sandwich. I had a chicken sandwich earlier today, like a chicken burger. It was a chicken sandwich from Culver's. It's really good, and I can think of the concept of a chicken sandwich and I can desire a chicken sandwich. Like I could be, oh man, I want a chicken sandwich. Or I can take the intention and the imagination and imagine eating a chicken sandwich. Oh yeah, I'll ask you to answer your question about communication. So I can eat the chicken sandwich and I can imagine how good the chicken sandwich was, or I could use my memory and be like, chicken sandwich, so good, so good. I love this chicken sandwich. And what you want to do is you want to move from desire to imagining the thing, whatever that happens to be. So if a desire comes to your head, you shift from desire to the experience of the thing and then bask in the experience. Which instead of like, I want the chicken sandwich, oh man, that chicken sandwich was so good. I love the taste of a chicken sandwich. I love that texture. Ooh, it felt so good. Oh, I could almost taste it. I could smell it. That's what you want to do. Uh, by attracting and manifesting your acts, didn't you change your style? Was that the question about communication? Where's the one about communication? I can't. Okay. I can't communicate with people around and from community. Okay. So to do that, what you want to do is you want to imagine clear communication. So if you want to have better communication with your relationships and people around you, you can do a um, imaginings. Like imagine and this is what using the imagination is extremely powerful for. Imagine the opening of your throat chakra and imagine the energy as you're pouring it out of your throat and speaking to others, and that it's being flowed back and forth between the two of you. Or not you and other groups. So imagine some of the people that you're going to have relationships with or have conversations with, and imagine talking to them and feeling natural and good as you communicate back and forth. So one of the things that I do that helps me out in the lives is that I'll actually sit down, will actually lay down, and I will imagine moving energy. I will raise the energy in my body, and I will imagine large groups of people in front of me, and I will send out that energy and transform the lives of other people. And I will say that, like, hey, my speech and the words that I say transforms people's lives. And I will see visually this energy going out and changing the lives of big groups of hundreds and hundreds of people. And I'm pushing that energy out. Why? Because that's what I'm doing in lives. I know I'm going to do that later. So I'm literally imagining it prior to doing any lives, prior to making any videos. I am imagining the energetic relationship or the communication between me and you guys constantly. I'm doing that. I don't do it every single day, but I do it often enough before I'm planning on making a video or doing something like that. So I don't expect the energy relationship to be set beforehand. I do that consistently. And that's the reason why I'm able to talk to you guys and answer questions and help you guys out and make you feel like emotional or whatever. Is because I imagine and I visualize it in an abstract way. And that's why you guys are here. That's why you guys sit around and listen. That's why you guys talk to me. That's why you show up. That's why I'm able to do lives for over an hour. It's because I build the energy relationship and I build how I want to feel. And the way I feel is, this is so good. This is wonderful. I love having this connection. I feel so connected. I'm changing their lives. I feel the energy. I feel the bliss flow through me. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you so much for them tuning in. Thank you so much for me connecting with them. This is wonderful. This is amazing. And because of that, we have awesome lives. We have awesome communication. Yes, it's that simple. It really is that simple. And the more you practice it, and this is a consistent thing, you want to do this consistently. So before I do any kind of work and stuff like that, I will practice that and I will feel how I want to feel after the lives or during the lives. I want to feel like my words have so much energy and so much powerful emotion that they transform and change your lives. That I talk about subjects and concepts that make I feel the unfolding of genius out of my voice. Or I'm like, I'm so glad that I was able to explain it in that way. That's what I think. And I don't expect it to just happen by itself. I make deliberate impressions for it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, boys. I appreciate it, man. You're being the character, yes. And even if you don't see it in the moment, you will get it. The whole point of you maintaining the character is that I used this example a little bit earlier. It was the 24-hour wheel. Imagine your entire day as a wheel of 24 hours, like a circle. You're assuming a new character, you're adding new energy or a new imagining to change a portion of the pie of the day. And all you're doing is just adding in new feelings and new experiences and making it a bigger piece of the pie. It doesn't have to be your current physical reality. You see it in your mind and your body feels it. The thing in the physical reality that has changed is not the physical world around you, but your actual body. The thing that you are changing in reality through your thought and through your feeling is this vessel, this body, your mind and your emotions and like throughout your nervous system. Because what you're literally doing with your thoughts is you're changing the physical structure of your mind. Every thought that you think creates a new neural pathway. And by thinking the same thought again and again, you make that neural pathway bigger and bigger and bigger until you create what's known as a bunk, which is a habit. It's a whole bundle of all these dendrites together. So think about it for a moment. Every thought that you think is quite literally changing the structure of your mind. Is your mind not part, not your mind, but your brain? Is your brain not part of the universe? Last I checked, is your brain, oh, thank you for the sweet sweatshirt. I love this sweatshirt. Is your brain separate from the physical universe? No, it's a part of the physical universe. So your thoughts quite literally restructure the entire universe. And the only thing that you're supposed to do is to think a thought long enough until that structure is crystallized inside of your brain and your nervous system knows how to tune into that reality, and your world outside becomes a reflection of the world inside. The thing you have total control over is inside of you, is everything on the other end of the threshold of you and your skin. So everything on the other end of the threshold, which means your imagination, your memory, your self-talk, and your physical body, you have full control over that. That's all that people are talking about when we talk about spirituality, is how do you control everything beyond the threshold of you, which is your memory, your thoughts, your imaginations, all that stuff. And the more you practice it, the more your life becomes a reflection of what you truly desire. And anything that exists outside, whether it's a symbol, whether it's numerology or astrology, is merely a mirror that you're used to understand the energies and the relationship between you and something else or someone else. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that's the way that things have to be. It just lets you know, hey, let me make a change. Let me shift. Let me understand how things are going to be. And you get to decide how you want things to be. Uh, Whether that's like shaving your beard or cleaning it up to look a certain way, but you get to make the decisions. You're the ultimate one that makes the decisions for stuff to happen. Have you thought of any videos on any experiences you had with healing your bodily manifestations? Yes, I have. I haven't done the video yet. My nose, physical manifestation was healing, physical healing. I actually had a super bad like nasal issue that was so bad that I went to an ear, nose, and throat specialist, and they told me that I need to get surgery for it. And it was really freaking bad. Like I couldn't breathe out of my nose. And then I used a lot. I used these processes, and I did a couple of spiritual processes to help myself out, and it worked. I practiced fasting, which is very, very powerful and very potent. Fasting, meditation. Was there anything else I used? No, no, no. Mostly just fasting, meditation, and being in nature. And then, sure enough, I breathed just fine. I didn't need to get the surgery, so I'll make a video on that. Oh, I also used visualization and self concept around that, but I used that to heal the nose. So I've done that, and then I've also lost 60 pounds. I went from 250 down to like one. I think my lightest was like 187. Right now I'm yo-yoing. I'm like a 190 something. I'm like 90 something. But I'll make a video on that. That'll be a later one. Okay, because of this inability, I get jealous of more famous people in school and university, and it messes with my mental health. Only. Okay, you can't not like other people. If you have any sort of jealousy or anger or resentment towards other people, you're not going to move into that position because you'll believe that by being like that type of person, you will attract resentment to yourself. So you have to clear that resentment, and that's why we do stuff like Ho'oponopono, and you do forgiveness exercises, which I'll make another video on how I use that in my relationship to clear up my relationship. Is you do that to clear it out so you no longer have to worry about that stuff. Because if you think of any person that in a position that you want to be in as negative, or you become jealous of them, you will subconsciously self-sabotage yourself and not go to that point, because you will not want to put yourself in a position where you're attracting anger or jealousy or envy from other people. So this happens for relationships. This happens for wealth. If you're jealous of other people or you're angry at other people who are wealthy, guess what? You're not going to put yourself in the position of wealth, because you're not going to put yourself in a position where people are not going to like you. And this isn't even a conscious thing. This is unconscious. You will unconsciously avoid behaviors that will stop you from being accepted by your own group. So like if you have family members who are like, oh, we hate rich people are awful, you will stop yourself from becoming rich because you will not want to be hated by the people that you care about. So that's why you like, no, you cleanse this in yourself. You're like, no, this is okay. It's okay. It's okay to be wealthy. It's okay to be wealthy.